Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. Today is Wednesday, the 14th of May. Um, um, this is me with my cow, Phoebe. So I did a video about just uh, the channel going in a downward direction, like a death spiral. You know, for years I had a YouTube channel. I got some videos that got hundreds of thousands of views, which I wasn't really aware of. A few of them, some with 20,000, 30,000, and but I don't know if those, I don't know when those got those views. This is me just looking at it, going back to my first original videos, and then I had about 1,000 subscribers for a number of years, and I would get like 10 comments, 100 views, 10 comments, whatever it was. And I made a video every month or so, and I made about $100 a month. It was a part of, it was kind of like a hobby, but it was more part of a grander vision of this idea of pockets of the future, which I thought the main thing was writing books and some other things, and a website and other things, right? It was just a part of that. But then in 2014, the channel took off. I started doing it as a full-time job. And then, YouTube was supporting it and it was growing. And then, the whole fake news, anti-truther movement came in and the thing just started to go the other way. But it popped at a specific time when I was on the train when the third master Sizemore system had just died. Like literally, I saw a video, already had like 1 million views. It had hundreds of thousands of views. And we were on the train. We heard Chargy had died. So it was like a whole change. And, I was soon going to be in a divorce process, an intergenerational family farm, this whole thing that we were doing. This is the broken down barn that we used to have. My daughter, Anna, when she was being self-abusive, had climbed up on the roof. Our milking barn was over here. And this was Phoebe, a cow that I milked for 6 years. And that's not what this is about. So, but I was going to say that I didn't say in that video, a lot of this is up to God, right? Like it's certainly out of my hands. Like I've done everything that I can to reverse the process of the channel disappearing or just going to a state where it's no longer, whatever. Somebody said that it was because there are too many ads, which I tried to take a look at, but for the life of me, I can't find a way to reduce the amount of ads. And I searched for it, and I don't know. I'll have to do that again when I have time. And I want to get rid of the long ads. No one should have to watch an 8-minute ad. So, but I can't. I don't know what to do about that. But this video popped up. This is one of my favorite videos. I put it up twice, and this is dry humor. This isn't true, but a lot of people believed I was Ray Romano's brother, and so I want to start off the video with this one. Okay, good evening, brothers and sisters. Now, there's been a lot of speculation and accusations about this very painful subject, and I have to come clean about it because it's something there's been rumors about it, and it's a very painful subject for me, so I might get really emotional, and I hope you'll bear with me as I tell this very traumatic story. It started, I think, in the late 1990s. I don't know exactly when. But I would go into a store and they'd find out my name, the cashier, if I use a credit card or something like this. And the person would say, "Hey, your name's Paul Romano. Are you related to Ray? Ha 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 ha." And of course, that was really awesome. And I'd say, "Yes, Dolores. I am related to Ray. That's why I'm shopping here at the Dollar fucking General." I'm laughing on the inside, but I'm laughing on the outside, but I'm crying on the inside. And then when I got my YouTube channel and I started to sign off and tell people my name, people started saying, "Hey, you related to Ray?" I mean,
Must be 15, 20 comments a week. And bizarrely enough, some people just from my voice, they seem to think I sound like Ray Romano. And they ask me if I'm related to Ray. And of course, there's only 3 Romano families in the entire, 4 Romano families. There is the Romano cheese family, there's the Ray Romano family, and there's my family, and then there's the Jewish Romanos. But, there is actually something I need to say about this, because I am actually Ray Romano's long-lost brother. And estranged brother, because there's actually a painful tale here. Because when my brother became a famous comedian, my older brother, I came up with this brilliant idea, because I was the youngest child in our family, my brother Ray, and our older brother Robert. And being the youngest brother in an Italian family, I was the favorite child. So I came up with this idea about our family dynamic having a sitcom where my brother Ray and I would star together because of my Shakespearean training and my years of working in the theater. And the show was called Everybody Loves Paulie. And Ray loved it. He said, what a wonderful idea. And he went and he pitched it to David Letterman. And he said, Paulie, we got a deal. And we're going and we're having a sitcom. We're running a pilot on CBS. And I was really psyched because I long wanted to join the Colombian branch of the Illuminati, of course, CBS being the home of that. And so got my family packed up and we were going to move across country to Hollywood and begin filming the show when I was cut out of the deal by my backstabbing brother Ray. And so I lawyered up and I was going to sue him for everything he was worth. But our mom took sick. She got a bad case of colic. And I just decided that I had to take the higher road because family dissension would only make her illness worse. And so today it still bothers me. And so when you careless, thoughtless people come up with your jokes, are you related to Ray? Think about how painful that must be for me and weep.
So that was one of my favorite all-time videos, and this obvious photoshopped photo. And I am not related to Ray Romano. And I just did the video like it was serious, and I got so many comments where people were like, "Oh my God, it's horrible," It was just I was just doing dry humor and whatever. But it was always a bummer that people are constantly asking me if I was related. You related to Ray? There's lots of Romanos. And the comment about the Jewish Romano, this is back when there was a group of people claiming that I was secretly Jewish, which, of course, I'm not because I could talk a lot about my Catholic upbringing. But either, if whatever religion I was born into, which was Catholicism, I now do something else. I've transcended religion. But anyways, it was amazing how many people thought this was true. Like it would be, it isn't even that well done. I'm not like an actor or something. And I was cracking up a lot. Like it made it when I'm listening to it now, I remember I was like I had to stop sometimes and laugh when I was doing it because it was funny to me. And I would. It made my voice sound like I was upset. So it made it, because I was trying to stop myself from laughing. Anyways, this was our old farm. This is not my brother Ray. My brother's name is Peter, and my mother never had colic. Maybe when she was a baby, but that's when you get it. And so, anyways, I just thought I would play this video again because I always enjoyed it. Okay, so it's probably going to be a number of, get rid of that. It's probably going to be a number of breaking stories tomorrow, which I'll finish this video on Thursday. I have a little extra time before dinner here, so. But this is a Fox News star named Cameron Kinsey with a Y in Cameron, Camryn, which is probably the most pretentious way of spelling it without putting a number in there or some shit. and she faints on live TV.
It's not about ideology, or it's not about.
See you, Cameron.
Oh my goodness.
Boom.
Fox
Fucking
News.
shit said like a fucking big bag of shit. She felt like a big bag of shit. Okay. That's tough shit, Cameron. You probably want to rethink taking the bloop. I've had this up on my toolbar now for like 2 weeks. One of my viewers sent it to me. And this dude gets shot here.
The paved road. Nobody cares about my films. For example, what was that?
So this
Sorry,
this
I
literally just happened when we were
shouldn't do
standing
that
outside
on
there,
camera.
and there was a noise, and it was a whiz, and you just said, "I've been shot." You had, look, you're
Yeah, yeah.
bleeding.
I think here somewhere. Yeah.
Look, I mean, somebody shot at you and created a wound in your abdomen.
It's not significant. In Germany, I've somehow left.
What the fuck? Right? What's going on with this guy is Werner Herzog. It's nothing, just a flesh wound. Okay, so this is kind of interesting video. Woke San Francisco woman bullies lesbian for having bumper sticker that doesn't include transgenders. Here is...
Messing with my car.
I don't.
You don't tolerate me, is what you're not tolerating.
I don't tolerate people who promote hate speech on their cars.
You don't get to tell me what hate speech is, and you don't get to touch my car.
It is hate speech.
It's not hate speech.
It's hate speech.
Lesbian, gay, and bisexual is not hate speech.
Yes.
Yes, it is. She's disagreeing with her. So today's Thursday, May 15th. I got cut off yesterday in the middle of this excerpt. Let's pick it up where I left off yesterday.
Who promote hate speech on their cars.
You don't get to tell me what hate speech is, and you don't get to touch my car.
It is hate speech.
It's not hate speech.
It's hate speech.
Lesbian, gay, and bisexual is not hate speech.
Yes, it is. It's erasing the T.
The T was never there to start.
The T was never there. It's erasing the T. If you don't put the T in, it's hate speech. Like, he doesn't understand hate speech because hate speech is not leaving something out, right? The Democratic Party, they had, I've talked about this quite a bit. Right when Kamala Harris was running, this is the middle of a presidency, they posted something on the DNC website of who the party serves. And it starts off with women, and there's no men in it. There's 16 different categories. And there would be some men would be included in some of the categories, like gay men or trans men or, any number of various men. And then there would be some things about people of color, so that would include some men of color. But white men specifically would be left out, which is a good portion of the population. Men in general make up almost 50% of the population in America. And, white men probably, 30% or something. And so they left it out. And it's fucked that they did that, but it isn't hate speech. You could say it's discrimination. But this woman's posting a bumper sticker, and people post bumper stickers all the time about a specific group that they belong to. And this lesbian woman is posting that. And she's saying it's hate speech because you left out the T.
With. It was a made-up thing that
It
happened
got
15 years
added
ago.
on because
Well,
our
I don't
community-
agree with it being
we
added on.
evolved. Our community
No,
expanded.
my
Oh,
community
this
is
you're not-
me.
This you're not recording. This you're not recording.
Oh, yeah, I
It
am.
got added on because our community expanded.
Your community expanded. I never accepted that.
Well, then
I'm a
that's your-
female who loves females. That's a lesbian.
No, you're a female who hates men.
No, you just made that up.
That's what you.
I have a lesbian exclusive
lesbians-
space.
Either lesbians are lesbians because they love women or because they hate men.
But, so then this woman's messing up her whole argument. If you're a lesbian that hates men, she's saying that transgenders are really not women. Right? Her argument is ridiculous. Because you're a lesbian that hates men, but mostly what they're talking about is men biological men who claim they're women. And I've said this since the beginning. The LGBTQ, the feminist lesbians, the feminist women, are being usurped by biological men, which is hard for them, which should be hard for them, right, to accept because of all of the reasons. And so, feminist women and very liberal feminist women, like when a biological man wins Woman of the Year, now you have men taking it's everything that they hate, right? Like, even though it's supposed to be about one happy group, their groups don't get along. You don't see a lot of gay men hanging out with lesbian women, for example. Like, just because they are in this LGBTQ thing doesn't mean the groups actually get along. Doesn't mean their interests are all united, right? Like, they have different interests, different, they're fighting for a piece of the pie, right?
And there's a big difference.
That is the craziest thing I've ever
From what
heard.
I've encountered.
How dare you put your ideology into me? I will not accept it. And if you touch
I
my
don't-
car again,
then don't park
if
your
you
car in
park
front
my
of
car
my
wherever I
house
want,
with that-
wherever I want.
Don't park your car with that
Public
well,
parking
then
space.
If it's,
Yeah, the cops will be here if you touch my car again. Adios, lady. Say it again.
you and your f***ing hate.
Awesome. See you on the...
Hi, this is Danny.
I don't know where this is going. It's an ad. Tell you, Dan, fuck you and your fucking hate. That was awesome. So this is one Britney J. Spears. My viewers stopped sending me Britney J. Spears stuff. I think a lot of them haven't been watching me. It's the Britney. Some people like my Britney coverage. And I haven't seen her Instagram in a while. This is on TikTok. And I don't know if she's just checked out or what. But she's back here for whatever reason.
I really want my nails back. I did all my nails off like a fucking idiot. I want my nails back, and
She's not helping herself out with this right here, right? Whatever this shit is, it's not helping her out.
I guess I should just go get nails and do it. I swear to God, I don't want to. It takes forever to get your nails done.
I think that's her British accent that she does. It's horrible. Like, she's just bad at, like, lots of things. Like acting and, life and videos.
And my bangs are pretty. I need bangs. I know, so I can be fancy. Ooh, mamacita, yes.
I said she just transformed to something else there. And she went out of her British accent and just started to say random Spanish words. But the eyeshadow is just, somebody should talk her out of that. I'm not a big makeup person, but, I notice when something's wrong. Like, when you get some old woman who can't put her lipstick on anymore, it's all over the fucking face or whatever, or somebody overuses something until you, like, notice it. Like, if I notice it, it's bad. Like, it's, there's just that raccoon eye, panda eyes that she has. So my wife sent me this.
It's Red Lobster's new lunch special. Shrimp and chicken, just $3.99. Golden
Just
fried shrimp and grilled chicken breast with salad and baked potato, just $3.99 for a limited time at Red Lobster.
All right, so that gives you a perspective of, like, how much inflation has come. I don't know what that would be now. Well, you get 5 grilled shrimp, a piece of grilled chicken breast, some fucking cocktail sauce, a lemon, for Christ's sakes, and a baked potato for $4, right? And so, I would assume this would be, what do you think, probably 15, but I don't know what Red Lobster, I went to Red Lobster like once in my life. But, we're talking about 3 or 4 times, at least be $12, right? Which would be 3 times as much. So this is Hoper Girl Little Pearl Walls. And I left her TikTok page open because she did something which, all these things are tabs I have open that I don't remember when somebody sent me something or not. It's, but this is, remember, she freaked out here, over here, about some girl who was a runner who was interviewing Trump or something that she was following on social media. And so here, and she said running is a privilege, remember? And she's, the family's crazy.
All right, I got my Met Gala live stream going. I am so excited. I don't think I've ever been so excited for a theme. And truly, it's a reminder of what could have been. It feels very contradicting to what's going on, and I think that's necessary, and a good reminder. So there we go. I'm super
All right, so she's super stoked about the Met Gala. Like, there's things out there that, the Met Gala is regularly a, Illuminati, eyes wide shut, weird ass fashionista thing that we all, will cover, look at some of the gaudy dresses and the weird outfits and just the decadence and the immorality of it all. The modeling industry is worse. Fashion industry is worse than all the other celebrity stuff. It's much weirder and much more depraved. And, I never have covered somebody who likes the Met Gala. I mean, I've covered celebrities that go to the Met Gala, but nobody who's a fan. I'm so psyched about this Met Gala. I've got the live stream going. This is a college girl, right? And let's go on from here. So this is a different type of cat, right? This person.
The sauce might be the best part about it.
I'm trying a chicken strip. Please don't cancel me. I'm just trying it. I'm not going to change my ways. I'm just trying it. Okay?
So you're a non-chicken strip eating M&F-er?
That's really good.
I told you. It's delicious.
I hope I don't get sick.
So you're eating something that is bad for you. Polyunsaturated fats. I mean, college kids eat crap. I was eating bad foods then, although I started macrobiotic food for a little bit. But, that's not whatever, her eating bad foods. It's that she said she's changing her ways.
Okay, I'm going in for another bite.
So this is what they consider content, right? So this is this little, young woman with her weird family. What did the next one say?
Okay, I just got some PR. And as you guys know, I've been using this body serum for a long time.
I don't know that. I don't know. I didn't even know this is the thing called body serum. That's actually just news to me. See, chicken, like those chicken frozen, those whatever chicken fingers she was eating, probably fast food. Like you could get better ones, but it depends on the oil they use. We know about deep fried foods, right? And what they do to your liver. I think most of you know. Young kids eat stupid stuff, and I don't know what her healthcare thing is. She said it was something new for her. But the stuff that you put on your skin, anything that's mainstream, you got to read the ingredients. I was talking about this with the pharmaceutical ads. And my wife and I was fast forwarding through something, and she was like, oh, there was one pharmaceutical ad. I went back to it. And it was in I forget what it was, what the medication was for. But it could kill you 3 different ways in the commercial. But then they said the most likely symptoms are nausea, dehydration, dry mouth, not dehydration, dry mouth, and 2 other things that were not, horrible things, but where no one wants to be nauseous all the time, right? Like, I didn't even want a dry mouth, right? So, and a dry mouth, like, fuck, And so, all this stuff is poison, and they're pushing poison.
Time, like this one's almost empty. So good. I do it like after I shower, like as my lotion, body care type beat. But Uni just came out with this.
Fucking Uni. All right. There's something else. I think I don't know what. She must post 3 or 4 videos a day.
sometimes when I'm working nights or am even on call like I was last night, so I just have to be ready to go in at any point. And like this is really hard. And then I think that I get to do this on a Wednesday at noon. I've never done a voiceover before, but this was at the start of the hike, and then throughout this video there's just like really pretty views. This trail is literally 15 minutes from my house, which
It's literally 15 minutes from your house? There might have been something political here somewhere. I don't know. Let's move over to...
With the entire internet talking about how running and just sport in general is a privilege, I'm going to use it as an opportunity to plug an organization that I absolutely adore.
Because the whole internet's talking about after she said that video, that running is a privilege.
BYEP, Big Sky Youth Empowerment, is an organization here in the Gallatin Valley in Montana that provides kids access to outdoor sports and activities as well as programming.
You're in Montana. It's like one of the reddest states in the country.
For kids as they move through their teenage years and into adulthood that wouldn't normally have access to these things and this type of programming. So in the winter, once a week, BYEP provides a lift ticket, gear, as well as lessons that we partner with Big Sky with to help provide to these kids. And they get to go ski.
They get to go skiing, which is also a privilege. Skiing is more of a privilege than whatever it is. All right, so, I mean, we'll go to the newest one here in a second. Okay. That's going to be a song they're going to edit out. I grew up listening to the Chicks, like, religiously. And when the country music world and just larger society tried to cancel them for saying war is bad, being right about it, and being women, my mom... That's exactly it. That was the three things. She's talking, I think, about the Dixie Chicks. I thought one of them died, didn't two of them died? But you're okay with them canceling somebody on the right or just a truther. This is the thing. Like, everybody's got their little whiny canceling stories of somebody they like. Went to every store in our hometown and bought out every single CD. And I think that explains a lot about who she is and who I also turned out to be. But wait, who bought out? Right about it and being women. My mom went to every store in our hometown and bought out every single CD. That's crazy. Like, that's what a crazy person does. Why would she go buy all their CDs when that meant the people who were also looking for Dixie Chicks CDs? I think that explains a lot about who she is and who I also turned out to be. Crazy as fuck. But we got to meet them at the DNC, and like my whole extended family are like huge fans. My oldest cousin Chloe's the fucking bomb. Is she the big one in your family also? Literally their biggest fan, and was in tears as they were in the room with us, and we were all just like starstruck. It was such a fun moment. 2 summers ago at the Minnesota State Fair, they had a concert. That's like a big thing in Minnesota, the concerts at the State Fair. And they played one night, and like aunts, uncles, cousins, my parents both went. It was so fun. It was so fun. Sounds pretty fun. Sounds like hanging out with the Wallses is like epic. So getting to meet them was really cool. But yeah, Gwen's a queen for that, for real. Gwen is the queen. A crazy queen. The queen of crazy. Okay, so this guy that you don't see yet is a German advisor. If he's some guy high up in the German government. And this is Micron from the guy with the dude for a wife. This is cocaine, which he's about to hide. This guy's going to hide a spoon for cocaine. Some journalist comes into the room, not knowing that this is a private room or whatever. So. Oh, this guy right here, he's going to hide the spoon. So here's the spoon. So there's the spoon, and there's the Coke. See, the guy just picked up the Coke. Watch the Coke. He's going to grab the Coke here. Boom, and hide it. I don't know if this is deep faked, but I haven't looked into it. So, watch it again. There's a spoon here. He's going to grab the spoon. Boom. Hide the spoon. Hide the Coke. That's how you do it. You hide the spoon, you hide the Coke. Which is way worse. If you didn't hide it, they could ask what that white powder is. The spoon was, negligible. But when you hide it, it gets way worse. You hide the spoon, hide the Coke. Right? Like hiding it, then you know it's something bad. And like they look suspicious as hell, right? They look like little kids and all these things. He just put it in his pocket. He puts it in his pocket at the end. It's his Coke. Look, no, don't be. It looks so totally like a kid with a cop just came into the room. He's going to put it in his pocket right here. Right, switch hands, boom, don't let people see it, smile, and stick it in your pocket. No, that's just classic. So we know the video was real because of this. So this French paper, when I just searched Macron, this was the third article about it. And I didn't search under news. And so I already had this open. Then I added cocaine. Fact check was cocaine on the table in Macron video with Mertz. And they were hiding something. And it looks like a spoon. It looked like a spoon. Tracking the disinformation. Look at this fucking France. Tracking the disinfo on Macron's cocaine use to the Ukraine. Unsubstantiated claims of supposed cocaine used by French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz on a train to Ukraine last weekend may have started from a French account. One post by a far-right French activist quickly spread across the internet after being picked up by U.S. conspiracy theorists and making its way to the Russian leadership. The post on various social media platforms shared actual footage of Macron, Merz, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer in Kyiv-bound train last Sunday. As Merz and Starmer arrived in the compartment, Macron is seen removing white tissue from the table. The post claimed inaccurately that the tissue was a bag of cocaine. I thought it could be a tissue, but why would he be so suspicious and stick it in his fucking pocket, which is gross, a used tissue? And what was the spoon? Why was this? They were both hiding something. And so, let's say that was a tissue. What was the other guy hiding? This is from Reuters. France accuses enemies of spreading fake news about a cocaine bag. And so, it's, again, it's a little bit like you could say it was something else in a bag for footage. Because a simple tissue looked like drugs. Simple tissue looked like drugs. This is a tissue for blowing noses. What was the spoon for? The fake news is being spread by France's enemies, both abroad and at home. We remain most vigilant against manipulation. So they said that it was, we reject this absurd claim. It's indeed just a tissue. Many sides are currently trying to influence public opinion through disinformation campaigns. Enemies of our democracy are specifically trying to weaken European unity and social cohesion. Well, what was the other thing? What did he grab? They don't mention the spoon, because the spoon is, it's just fucked. And who wouldn't believe Macron or any leader? When you get older, I haven't used drugs since my 20s, 40 years, almost 35 years. And alcohol. I took my last drink and my last recreational drug when I was 23, 24 years old. It wasn't like I made a decision. It was something that was already fading from my life. They didn't make me feel good. And, I was when I drank alcohol, I didn't feel good. When I used drugs, I didn't feel good. And I was at some point, you get older and you get mature a little bit and you realize it's stupid, right? After years of realizing it didn't make me happy or whatever it was. I just then faded from my life. I didn't, And then, of course, doing Saj Margits, you can't do that shit and meditate because it affects your meditation. And you become sensitive to it. I had an operation, it's an issue, in 2017. And went on pain medication. It was horrible. I really disliked it. I went on some opioids. And that lasted about 3 or 4 days. And I went on Valium, and then I just, was able to deal with the pain. But if I have to do that again, it sucks. I don't like it. It makes me feel really bad. Like I'm sensitive to the, whatever. But as you get older, this stuff negatively affects you. But these guys, he probably drinks alcohol, and it's not the same as cocaine because it's still, it's legal, but, and so why hide it? Why hide the thing? And then stick it in your pocket is fucking gross, right? You can throw it in trash. It just, the way it was acting was so suspicious. And so they could have manipulated that, like, whatever. You can do that, but either way, it's kind of hilarious. Okay, so I just talked about this with my wife who sent me this, and she had an interesting point, which was, let's look at it again here. So let's say this is a snot rag, right? It could be. It could be a bag of Coke, right? So we don't know what this is. But let's say this is snot rag. It's gross as fuck to leave that on the table. Like, why would you do that, right? Why would you leave a snot rag? You're at a business, you're in a meeting with foreign leaders. You're on a train going to Kiev in Ukraine to support the Ukrainian government, all that bullshit, which is, again, all that scumbaggery, all the bullshit that goes with that. And you got a snot rag on the table, right? And then you're like, oh, this is gross. Maybe let me hide it. Let me hide the snot rag. And then this is the most suspicious body pose. You're embarrassed by the snot rag. Well, that's gross. Why was it there? Like, these guys are right next to you. How many people are in a business meeting, blow their nose, and then put the snot rag on the table? There's got to be a trash in there somewhere, right? It's like a business place. It's like, a table in there. They look like totally suspicious, right? And now I'm going to put it in my pocket. I'm going to put it in my pocket, right? Fuck? The fuck? So somebody sent me a video on Instagram. Instagram, there's always issues with volume. I've been having issues with volume in my videos. My mic was very soft, so I turned it up, and then it was too loud. This whole thing, right? I think I got it set now. But this guy comes on Stephen Colbert's show and describes the process of putting what he called garbage in the air. That was essentially garbage, junk, that was, in particle form, to block out the sun's rays to stop global warming. And as, he was proposing this. And then somebody sent me that clip. And I went to look for that clip, and I can't show you the whole thing because CBS is the worst at copywriting. But that was said. And then Colbert says this.
Already. You ever look at those planes up there? They have contrails behind them. Maybe all those planes with the contrails, maybe they're actually spraying chemicals into the atmosphere right now. And Uncle
You mean chemtrails, right?
Sam isn't telling us.
Seems extremely unlikely.
The fact that the United States is not telling something to its citizens, that seems extremely likely to me.
Boom. So all of a sudden you're now a conspiracy theorist. It would be chemtrails, not contrails, because you just said they were spraying chemicals, which this guy proposed as an idea to stop global warming. And so, we can fucking see it. We can look up the sky and we can see contrails that disappear and chemtrails that don't, right? We can fucking see it. We can look up in the sky and see it, and they're still able to push back against what all of us can fucking see. And so whatever the fuck they're spraying and lying about creates a complete distrust in everything the government's doing. And, the thing about the government that I often defend and about the powers that be is that if they did tell people what it is, people would panic because fucking people bought every roll of toilet paper within a 24-hour period and most of the canned goods in every grocery store across the country when COVID hit. And so, people are just right there waiting for the apocalypse. And they're panicked as fuck, like you see in every movie. And if you tell people the truth, especially after you've lied to them for so long, it creates panic. So the government is in the position that they have to constantly lie to people who are, barely awake, alive NPCs that would hit a panic button. And when they hit the panic button, they would do stupid shit. And everyone else would start doing stupid shit. Because you just need 10% of the population to panic to set out a complete collapse of the society. So that's where we're at, right? Where, you have to be lied to because you'll see what happens when they don't lie, especially given the dire nature of our system and everything else. Doctors issue urgent warning over ingredient found in popular drinks that turbocharges cancer. They're using turbo cancer. Fucking an ingredient in popular energy drinks may increase the risk of blood cancers, as studies suggest. The researchers in New York are warning consumers to exercise caution when it comes to consuming taurine, which is, I take this I take taurine with vitamin E, not recommending things, just telling you what I do. It helps with the heart. I had the heart issues. And now they're saying taurine, which is a supplement, and it's found in, like foods. I didn't want to do that. Drinks including Red Bull and CCLS. They found the first time amino acid acts as fuel for leukemia cells, which form in bone marrow, a spongy substance found in the center of bones. Where's the turbo cancer? Where's the word turbo in this article? But again, but vaccines don't do anything, right? And so drinks that contain taurine, and I don't know. There's no more. They use the turbo cancer in the title, but nowhere else, because it says it may increase the risk, and so they're not talking about it's just fucking stupid. All right, this was a video I thought was out there before because I think I saw this before, and I don't think it was deja vu.
The most influential podcaster on planet Earth just made a pretty surprising argument for Jesus, and it's gone viral. Take a look.
Yes. And it's funny because people would be incredulous about the resurrection of Jesus Christ, but yet they're convinced that the entire universe was smaller than the head of a pin, and for no reason that anybody's adequately explained to me that makes sense.
Yeah, no.
So, there's a little bit of desperation in that voice and argument there. Oh, he's got a Pink Floyd shirt. See, it's a silly argument because what he's trying to say here is you'll believe in the Big Bang Theory without having proper explanation, because there really isn't a good explanation because it's a theory, and it's not really true. But science people will believe in something like the Big Bang without really fully understanding it, without a concrete explanation, but won't believe in Jesus being resurrected. But the two things are identical, right? Like if you're making a case to disbelief in both, right? You're not making a case, so we believe in the Big Bang, so might as well believe in Jesus too. They're counterintuitive because they're two groups of demographics of people, one who believes in the religion of science and the other who believes in the religion of Christianity, and both are not provable, right? You can't prove anything. You can't even prove Jesus was alive. And so, in the Big Bang Theory is the theory. Science takes faith. There needs to be a faith in science because every scientific hypothesis, every theorem, not even a theory, starts off as a speculation of, I wonder if I could prove this, right? And then you go about proving it. And you can't prove the Big Bang because it's not really what happened, but even if it did, you couldn't prove it because you would have to prove nothingness. you would have to prove there was a time there was nothing. And how the fuck are you going to prove there was nothing, right? How are you going to prove there was a zero? Like, zero is something you can't prove. You can prove that there's something, right? But you can't prove that there's nothing. And God is also nothing. So both science and religion, and science and religion, or the belief in God, take faith, and they start off with a suspending your in common sense. But the thing that sucks about the Joe Rogan thing and this guy trying, and I don't, Joe Rogan just saying that is nothing. It's just it's a throwaway line on a podcast. Like, I don't care. Like, I have a higher opinion of Joe Rogan now. I think he's more of a positive, whatever shill thing he is, whatever. I just don't care about that shit anymore. Because everybody's a shill. Like, everybody is, has some sort of an agenda just based in your belief, right? So this guy is a shill for Christianity, the guy who's pushing this thing with Joe Rogan. And Joe Rogan, I think, is embracing some Christian stuff. This is like at least the second video that somebody sent me or was recommended to me by YouTube. And he clearly is a Christian from the interview, the part I saw about half the interview he did with Mel Gibson. And so, when you believe in something, you shill for it. Even if it's like a good thing, even if it's your relationship with the thing is positive and not financial, you shill for what you believe in, right? You do it just naturally. You have something works for you. You want other people to benefit from something that you're doing. So that becomes, being a shill. Like this whole thing about, being a shill in the truth community is where someone's being paid by the powers that be to put out this information. And, that's a different level of shill, certainly. That would be, but everybody has their interests, their personal interests, whatever those personal interests are. So I just don't care about anything. It's just whether somebody is mostly positive, like everyone's going to be negative to some extent. Everyone's going to, are you making the world a better place, or at least neutral? Like, those are the two things. Like, at least don't make it worse. That's the bare minimum of a person who does Saj Marg. Don't leave the world worse than you found it. And certainly thoughts and, what you create internally is the biggest part of that. Because your internal world is what manifests into the good and the bad and the ugly of your material life. But this Christian guy who is, got a Christian channel pushing, the bullshit Christian religion. Jesus wasn't bullshit, but what he did and what he, his successes. But the religion itself is full of fucking lies and deception, manipulation, and it's just fucking bad. Like all religions, they go that way because people find that they can manipulate people with God more than anything else. And there's no accountability for something that takes faith. So they can make up whatever bullshit they want and people will believe it. And, I've been covering that in my recent videos from time to time. But what Joe Rogan doesn't say here is that, okay, so if you're going to believe in Jesus's resurrection, then why wouldn't you believe Krishna picked up a mountain? Or the number of things that Krishna did that were, also takes you to suspend your understanding of physics and reality. And why wouldn't you believe in Muhammad and Buddha and any number of spiritual people that are making spiritual claims, right? Like, which ones are the bullshit ones and which ones are the real ones? The one you grew up with? The one your parents told you was okay? The one that you were indoctrinated into? Is that the only one? It's just, what about Mormonism? Then why wouldn't you believe Joseph Smith found some tablets channeled by Native Americans who wrote it in English even though they didn't understand it? Because some angel named Moroni told him it was there. And he also told them that everyone who does this new religion will go to heaven and have their own world and be a monarch, a king, or a queen of it. Like, why isn't that true also, right? As long as we're just believing in any old fucking bullshit, then why is it your bullshit's more important than something else, right? And so, it comes down to incentivization, right? And so the good thing about Saj Marg, the thing I believe in, is one, you can experience the condition almost immediately. It depends on your sensitivity of what's called the central region and the final goal of your spiritual journey. You get tastes of it going to gatherings and doing the meditation. And it doesn't promise your life's going to get better. In fact, it says miseries is divine blessings. So it's not trying to sell you on a heaven. It's not trying to sell you on some kind of, one-off. You just have to accept you got to work. And that you're going to work once you die. That working for God is the rest of your life. You're committing to give up your egotistical pursuit for pleasure and, all of it. Your egotistical, whatever your goals are, whatever your responsibilities are, sure. But everything is, wrapped in a tight level of symbiosis with your working for God, pledging to work for God, and starting off doing little bits of stuff for God, and eventually it becomes all-encompassing. That you're giving up your individual ability to choose the wrong thing. And nobody wants to hear that shit, right? So, what my thing is way more reality-based because there's no incentivization. It's less shilling because they're not telling you shit you want to hear. They're not trying to agree with your beliefs. They're saying you're going to have to change, which is another thing people don't want to hear. That you have to change. It's not a one-off. Like, we'll take care of you in the afterlife. You just got to buy into our bullshit for a little bit. And it's just, deep down as you're being lied to. You just don't want to deal with it. And so, the reality of God and these things is either there is one or there isn't. And if there is one, and you do have a soul, then why aren't you working towards connecting with it? I say this all the time, that there's a system out there that helps people connect to soul, which would be, an internalized system, right? Because if your soul's within you, people have spiritual experiences. They have, whatever they have. I mean, some of these things like people who take peyote or they have Joe Rogan, those fucking guys taking shrooms and taking fucking, not mescaline, what's this? They're ayahuasca. And, why not meditate and bypass all that bullshit, like chemically based bullshit, and connect to divinity within you? I mean, there's been examples throughout history. Everybody who's ever achieved anything in spirituality, including Jesus, meditated. And so that's the first step. And then you have to find the best system. And you have to pray to God. And you could say, all right, I want to be a true seeker. I want to see the truth. I want to be a true seeker and a truth seeker. I want to seek the ultimate truth. Or whatever it is, whatever your motivation is. And so it's through internalized journey and finding the divinity within you. That's what every higher developed soul, if you want to penetrate to a higher level of consciousness, that's what you have to do. And I talk about this thing all the time here. And people benefit, feel the energy, feel the insight that I have, the information that I have, the worldview that I have, and see that I have something going on, which I attribute 100% to the Sajmarg meditation. My videos wouldn't be worth watching without it, right? And I say things that are much more compelling and much more logical and just, even the way I'm talking about this thing, opposed to these two guys, right? So Jesus' resurrection, all right, sure. It's true or it's not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make him the only son of God, right? That's some bullshit the religions are telling you. There's definitely bullshit there in the religious teachings to make you think it's one guy and he's died for your sins and that's your one shot at heaven. It's a bullshit story. It's a bullshit fucking sales pitch where they're manipulating your fear of death and also fear of going to hell, and then the peer pressure that you get from your families and all this other thing, just like all the other religions. When, Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within. Why are you focusing on the resurrection and not that brilliant teaching? If the kingdom of heaven's within, then the seventh story is a bullshit story. That they're saying that you're accepting Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior is the only way to get to heaven, which is external. And Jesus saying, no, heaven's inside you the whole time. Well, then why the fuck am I doing all this bullshit and paying you guys all this money and reading all this bullshit in your books when divinity is within me? And so people are scared of the divinity within them because that means they have to give up their freedom of choice to do the wrong thing, which is, again, it's nothing people want to hear. But look at the fucking world, right? This is what happens when you go do the wrong thing, when your ego does what it wants to do and not what God wants it to do. And so this is what's up with the whole thing. You know, so it gets us some comments here. So this let's get to these comments. This is all BS, all lies. This is game over. Biden did not recognize Clooney, and Trump's plane, whatever it is, like the title's cut off. This is all BS, all lies. More like traitor Trump not recognize anyone, even himself, in a mirror. Biden is very mentally sharp and very intelligent. I mean, I don't get commenters like, I don't know how this person ended up here. Trump is ignorant and acts as if he's uneducated. Trump should have been a miscarriage. Why not just go, you're a liberal, why not just go with abortion? Like, you don't have a, but I don't get people like that very much here. This says, the last 5 presidents at least were bought and paid for. They just went blatant about it. They all work together, let's be honest. Well, they're all bought and paid for. Like, I don't think there's any, this is all like the Pope thing. When there's politics involved in a power position, you have to make fucking deals, right? You have to make deals with people in power. So if you want to be Pope, there's, people's rings you have to kiss. I mean, even in terms of the British monarchy where it's, there's bloodlines, they could say, all right, fuck this guy, Chuck, Prince Charles. Let's go with his son, or let's go with, this happened before. Queen Elizabeth's dad, her uncle was king. And then he just did something. He married somebody. He did some shit. Like he married an American girl or something. And they ousted him. And they put his brother in. And then she became king or queen because of that, right? And that guy was on the outside. So this former king was walking around and they had to deal with him. And he lived in America and, all these things, right? He wanted to be forgiven by her, like as the monarch. And it was a whole thing. Everything's involved. Everyone's bought and paid for. I love you, Paul, as a listener, but you need a vacation of Ventures. I can tell you're getting slightly bored. I don't think I'm bored. What I was going through in terms of I verbalized it in that one video. People are talking about this one video here. Let me find the title. She holds the hand that holds her down. They're making you into Bubble Boy. And it's the futility of the thing. I think let me read this other comment. Here it is. I disagree to say your work is futile, brother. So many have continued to benefit. The spiritual aspect in particular is so valuable. You are doing God's work. I've been following you for many years now, before the Journey series started. Forever grateful. Thank you. And then somebody said, I agree. I have benefited from Paul's wisdom, humor, experience, and observations, and the introduction of Sajmark since I found this channel in April of 2019. The thing about it is, like going back to this thing about being bored, and I'll weave in this other stuff with it. What I was saying in that video is the futility of, the spiritual movements. There's a time that Master Chargy, these people came from South America. And I don't know if they're from different places. And there's a guy, Mr. W, I've talked about him in the Journey series. He's a real fucking winner. That's not why his name is Mr. W. But the guy was just a bozo. But he spoke Spanish and he wanted to get Sajmark in these countries, in Latin America and these places, which is a good thing. And there's other people that spoke Spanish that went down there with him, and they were trying to, create a liaison for this movement. But America, like this guy was in charge of America as a preceptor for a while at different times. He's the guy who got me to move to New Mexico, and just turned out to be a real piece of shit with my, stuff. I've talked. If you heard the Journey series, it's this. But he got some people to come up from South America that are interested in meditating. And they came to Atlanta, we're at the gathering, and they were all made preceptors. There's like 6 or 7 of them. And Chargy said it's like throwing a glass of water into the desert. And they went out and celebrated by eating ribs, which is, you're supposed to be a vegetarian kind of, so, they were, there was a language issue, and there was, it was just, but you could say that about all of this. See the big religious movements, they start off as something small when they're at their best, when the master's alive. And, it's a handful of people, in Jesus' case, because it's the easiest one for us to talk about. 3 fucking people and his disciples, his number one disciple, Peter, all fucked him like in the, one denied him, one doubted him, and one betrayed him. And so that's the best of the best. That's 12. These are souls that came down to work with Jesus. And then, the rest of it that unfolded. And then now it's a piece of shit religion, right? So there's a futility in all this. Kennedy talked about that guy, Vasifius or some fucking guy, I don't know, who pushes the boulder up the mountain. Syphilis. And, never reaches the top and it rolls down. He does it the next day. And there's a futility in doing spiritual work. Like you can't, and, I'm lucky that I don't have to worry about the results. And so people say they're benefiting from what I do here, and that's great. And, that helps me to keep going. But I would keep going anyway, but it's, it makes it better. If there's nobody listening, then there would be, there wouldn't be much of a point. But I'm already set in doing this. But I don't care about the outcome because, I don't feel like my commenting on the next stupid thing that Trump does or the next book about Biden or, the rigged lottery system in basketball, it might help you pass the time. And it might have higher vibrations than just, my place in 30 years of meditating on the Sizemore system. That Babaji said that he didn't care what people were when they started. Like he didn't give a shit about how bad a person they were. That just if they did the system, the cleaning process and receiving the transmission would transform them over time. And he was correct, but not 100%. In the sense, yes, they would be transformed, but they still would retain their stupid fucking tendencies, right? I just watched this Netflix documentary. It was Gilbert Arenas and this other basketball player, Jarvis Crittenton. And I remember the story. So what happened was there was gambling going on in a plane. And Gilbert Arenas was a clown, like just a complete clown. I don't like the guy. He has a successful podcast now. He's very annoying. He's always, and he was always pushing the buttons of his teammates. And he was the star of the team. So he was a bad star because he, didn't elevate his teammates. And he would, do jokes. And when he provoked them, he would get really, then once he knew that he got under their skin, he would just push the envelope. And he grew up, his dad was, which I didn't know, his dad was a Hollywood actor wannabe, and he went to L.A. to be a star, and he was a bodyguard for Hollywood celebrities. And Gilbert Arenas kind of grew up in, more affluent suburban area. But there was a gambling issue on the plane, and Gilbert Arenas woke up and got involved. And this guy Crittenden was somebody he said likes respect. I guess his mom. They talked about him just like somebody who wanted to be respected. He was a rookie. He was on a rookie deal, very vulnerable, whether you're going to make it in the league. And, questionable, like whether he wasn't going to be a star, right? He was going to be somebody who would be a role player. When you're a role player, you can't fucking have off-court issues. And Gilbert Arenas, they started talking shit. And Gilbert Arenas started to fucking, they started talking about shooting each other. And Gilbert Arenas was collecting guns. And they were flying in from Arizona back to D.C. He played for D.C. And he would buy guns in Arizona where there was a Republican state and they had, less gun laws. And he'd smuggle them back on the NBA plane and then bring them to Washington, D.C., Virginia. He played for the Washington Bullets, now known as the Washington Wizards. And he brought 2 guns to Jarvis Crittenden's locker, put him on the where he would sit, and wrote him because they got into this shit talking thing, and Jarvis Crittenden said he would shoot him, and then Jarvis Crittenden pulled his own gun out, and threw the gun on the floor, one of them, and like all the players like, fuck, this is getting real, and then it leaked from the they squashed it, but there was like there was loaded guns drawn, right, and so. And Gilbert Arenas certainly was the piece of shit in that story because Jarvis Crittenden made his own bad decisions, but he was in a much more, Gilbert Arenas was an established star. The story broke. They got suspended. Gilbert Arenas said he got suspended for transporting guns on a plane and then acting out. Like he did a bunch of fucking clown shit to make it worse, right? Just by being a fucking asshole and pretending that like he was trying to joke about it in a way that was inappropriate, and the NBA didn't want to be associated with guns and the whole thing, so they suspended for the rest of the season. Jarvis Crittenden was kicked out of the league. Basically, he never got back to the NBA, and it was because of this event. He made some money in China, but he was hanging out with he played for LA, and he got involved with some gangs there because he got robbed. And he went back to Atlanta projects area as a rich guy. And he was wearing $100,000 worth of jewelry. He got robbed. And then he got robbed again. So he went searching for the guy who robbed him and tried to do a drive-by shooting and hit an innocent girlfriend. And this was like, the story of just a lot of bad decisions, right? And, and I was kind of interested in the documentary went south when they started to get preachy. I don't know what they were preaching, but there's lots of people that grow up in impoverished situations and then make bad decisions and that can't elevate themselves from that, that whatever it is. And they are trying to make it like maybe a sob story, not only for the player, but also for the woman he shot. But the whole thing is just, there's just all this bad decision making. Every day, people are making fucking bad decisions across the economic the socioeconomic spectrum. We know about it. We talk about the elites, the people I call the controllers, constantly. Everyone making these bad decisions, right? People have a chance every moment to do the right thing and to do what God wants them to do and submit to that inner whatever it is, right? And so I was saying in that last video was, and the parts that I didn't include, the Journey series is going up today. Today's Thursday, May 15th. And the other one will probably be up Saturday on my Gratefullness meditation channel for those who don't have the membership. I might go to an all membership program or just post a lot more membership and just go not do the ads anymore. I don't know, but I guess if YouTube run ads anyway, like I could go and do ads, post some kind. I don't know. I'll have to think this through as I move forward with all this. But in general, like the world isn't going to stop, or it's not going to miss me. People will, maybe some viewers, if I stop making content. Like, not that I'm thinking about that. This is my job, and this is what I got to do, and I have to live with the, whatever's going on with it, right? But, like the stuff that I say here, it only has value if it causes other people to change their ways for the better. Like the only thing that makes, my content have value in the bigger scheme of things is if people, understand what I'm saying to be the truth about connecting to the divinity within you, and then realizing that they have to change. And the same thing with what Joe Rogan said and all these people, that none of this has any value unless you yourself are changing your ways and realizing you're making egotistical, bad decisions because you have the freedom to do so, and that you have to stop doing that. And then making the right decisions and connecting to divinity within you, and there's a system available for that purpose, Sajmarg meditation. But, there were lots of saints who I would assume were more evolved, like, whatever, in the previous existences, people who are higher than me on the, the spiritual spectrum. Again, I can't, I don't know, but that's what I understood to be the case. People who are better at Sajmark than me, people who are more giving, more committed, more devotional, more whatever, just more into it. And some of it, some of them being born in India where it's a part of the culture and things, and spiritual tradition, yeah, whatever. I mean, it's all whatever it is, it is. But these people failed the whole Dodgy debacle. The thing with Dodgy being a piece of shit. And I can't speak to their failure of each person, but just overall, I don't think they're floundering. They don't know what to do with it. And even when Chargy was around, you had these saintly people that would have their moments of really bad decision making, and then they're overall not embracing the system, even though they felt it, they loved it. They would spend all their free time engaging with the system, reading the books, doing all these things. And yet, they had their moments where they just couldn't rise to that level. And there's all these people who went to higher levels went to the mind region, went to the central region, went to higher levels of spiritual attainment and fell. Even Chargy himself, they would go to a higher level and then have to be pushed back up because there's spiritual gravity and there's a whole predisposition towards the lower in the human condition. And so either human beings are going to get it and change or they're not, right? And so the futility in what I talk about is that, it's not enough what people are doing. It's not enough people. And each person who gets it to whatever extent doesn't go far enough. And so, they go 1% better than they were, and that's still positive, and that's great. And if my channel contributes to 1%, 100 people going 1% better, or thousands of people going 0.5%, that's great, and that has nothing to do with me. I just do my side of what I do in terms of presenting and disseminating information here, in whatever way people benefit from it or not is really up to them. That's the beauty of the Sajmark system, that it allows people to have the opportunity to rise to a higher level. And for the most part, people don't. And so whatever's happening with the world, none of it really means anything. The way that we think about material life, it's a video game, right? There's nothing real here. It's an illusion. It's Maya. And so there's nothing all that important. The whole world could collapse and it'll be, there's other worlds, right? And the world won't, they'll be inhabited by etheric life. There are lots of planets that evolved from material life to having etheric life. The planet itself evolves to where it no longer can be inhabited by living organic beings, but everything in the planet has risen up to a higher level of etheric, where there's energy-based life forms that now are there in that particular part of the universe, but they can also go other places just through thought and thought force, and they're no longer bound to the third dimensional laws and physical reality of having to have oxygen and having to have food and water and things. And you're now just a soul, and your soul is doing whatever it does on a much more refined level. But none of this stuff is that important. That's why, I enjoy making the videos, but I don't take any of it seriously because none of it is. It's all just a joke, right? Which is what my first experience as a Sajmark meditator was, that material life and all the things that we see so important are just a joke. And when I, plug into that original experience and I see it, and everything being illusionary, then it becomes, it's really about making the right decision, because your decisions don't matter. The things that, people make decisions all the time about things that end up not making them happy. Like a guy leaves his wife for a younger woman, and that young woman makes him miserable. Bill Belichick's dating this young girl, and there's all this drama, and she seems like a real manipulative piece of shit. It's causing problems with his family, his job. He left whatever his divorce it was, I mean, probably just having a woman that could tolerate him, his ex-wife, whatever. You should have been grateful for that, right? But people make decisions like that where they quit something, they do something, and they think they're going to enjoy something else. They blow off work and they get drunk and they have a miserable time and end up going to jail or something because they got into a fight because they're so angry, and then they lost their job on top of it, right? And I'm talking about material consequences. But the real tragedy is spiritual consequences for doing things that don't make you happy, doing things that you're doing for your compulsions. And people every day are making decisions that end up causing them problems in the material life and make them add spiritual grossness that blocks their ability to connect to the divinity within them, creating some scars. And they're miserable in the fucking process. They're not happy. They're not, Trump isn't a happy person. Biden wasn't a happy person. Hollywood celebrities aren't happy. They've achieved something they thought they wanted, and now they're like, well, it's not making me happy, but I can't give it up. And so they just keep on doubling down, lying, deceiving themselves, right? And, it's just the futility of human life and bad fucking, whatever the issues that propel human beings or make them compulsively seek out the dark side and the lower nature of their existence and not embrace the higher. And, hopefully it'll change, maybe soon. But if it doesn't, it'll be whatever it is. Anyways, let me wrap this one up here. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely point for the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.